Welcome once again to another episode of The Catholic View for Women here on EWTN. We are so glad that you're tuning in, and we hope that you'll stay tuned for the entire program because, boy, do we ladies of The Catholic View have a lot to say during this episode, which we're calling A Tale of Two Marches. With me, of course, my lovely co-hosts, Elena Rodriguez and Janet Morana. Ladies, I don't know where to begin with this except to say that the March for Life, which EWTN gives amazing coverage. And I've been privileged to be their field correspondent for many years now. But the March for Life has been going on really since Roe v. Wade began. So we've been at this for well over 40 years. Right. And then after the election in 2016, and actually the day after the inauguration of the new president, President Donald Trump, there began a new quote-unquote tradition in Washington where women are gathering for what they call the Women's March on Washington. So you talk about a tale of two marches. I don't know where to begin because the contrasts are so great and at the same time are so sad.
Well, you know, first of all, you have to look at these marches. First of all, I was actually present at the march that they did in 2004 in the spring. Planned Parenthood organized it, and it was really going against...
That was called the March for Women's Lives, right?
Yes, and it was going
How
against...
How ironic, though, is that,
right,
when they're promoting abortion?
Promoting abortion. And of course, women are still dying from legal abortion. But that march was political, just like this one was, because it was against the re-election of George W. Bush. And so the Planned Parenthood felt jeopardized. If we got Bush in for another 4 years, we're going to lose funding. This is going to happen. That's going to happen. It was a big scare thing. And so I went to that march with the women from Silent No More. We had about 50 women. We just stood silently because they wouldn't let you participate, of course. But we stood silent with the I regret signs they had and so forth. I'll tell you, the police had to have barricades to stop them from attacking us. It was terrible. And what was sad was to look at the sad faces on these women. It was sad, like scowling kind of looks. Horrible. Some of the signs were vulgar, very vulgar. I can't even say them here. They were so vulgar. But there was one joyful thing that happened. One woman had this sign about supporting Planned Parenthood, and all of a sudden she came around the barricade, and we figured, what's going to happen? She walked up to me. She took, it was one of those signs on a stick. She took it and folded it in half and handed it to me and said, I can't march with them anymore. I just can't do this. And then she started weeping. She had had an abortion. Aww. And then the women, of course, ministered to her. We eventually got her for healing and all that. So sometimes when these women are marching among that throng and you think they're all for it, for some reason they're feeling, well, I bought the lie, so I guess I have to go along with it. And here this woman just broke down and said, I need help. And so for me, it was worth being there just for that one woman. But notice it's political, because then the other march that you're referring to, the day after the inauguration, was all against President Trump.
But it was very vile,
the
things that they were saying
from
the podium.
It was worse than the other one.
And also, Janet, I just heard you say that back in 2004, that other march for women's lives, you were not accepted to or authorized to march with them.
Oh, no,
but you were women.
Yes, of course.
And in this march, after the inauguration, the pro-life groups were not allowed.
Kicked to the curb.
Women groups.
That's right.
Students for Life was one of them, I think Feminists for Life, and there was one other group. And
so it wasn't a women's march in either of the cases, because some women were keeping away other women.
Yeah.
How is that even a good name for it?
And I was in Washington for the inauguration, so for the next day, I did not go to that march. We were warned about how violent it would be. So I was actually heading over to Union Station to leave D.C., and I saw some of the women when the march was over heading, to the train station. It was very sad, Teresa. I saw a woman with 3 young daughters. Maybe one was 7, one was maybe 9, and one 11. And they had those little pussycat hats, and she had painted on them whiskers and little noses. And they thought they were so proud as punch that they had just marched in this march, for women.
Well, that march was very dark, and a lot of it, I'm sure, and you're the expert on this, was coming from post-abortive, syndrome.
Absolutely. Like I said, even with the other march, most of these women are marching because they have to justify what they did. Even if they feel feelings, they stuff those deep down inside. If they feel that regret, it takes some of them decades to come out of it. And so to justify it, we have to we have to continue to march for the right to have an abortion. Legitimize it, exactly. And so for women, after they've had an abortion, if they start feeling bad, well, because everyone's saying have abortion today, go back to school and work tomorrow, no big deal. Well, if you're starting to feel like it's a big deal, how does that make you feel? There's something wrong with me. So you keep silent, you keep quiet about it. I mean, that's why the women who have gone through healing and speak out, we say it's silent no more, because they finally broke that shame, broke that silence, they've come back to the Lord and had healing.
And in your experience, what's a problem when a woman bottles up all those feelings and does not open up to be able to take the next step and seek healing?
Well, basically, sometimes of course, they abuse drugs and alcohol to numb their pain and so on. But, you know, it takes sometimes their life to spiral all the way down. And that's what this woman did who folded that sign. Her life had spiraled.
She was done.
She was done.
Spiraled, yeah.
She was done. And now she was saying, please help me.
Well, on the brighter side, and we pray for those women who continue to be involved in events like that, because often even some of the women may not even know what they're walking into, because they may think the way the media portray it as something very positive. Maybe they're innocently standing up for women's rights, real women's rights. We're not talking about quote unquote abortion rights. Right. But on the other hand, the March for Life 2017 for me was one of the most meaningful marches that I've ever covered. I mean, they're all great. I love being there. I'm in my element with live reporting, and one of our photographers who works with us here at Catholic View for Women, Mike Soleri, is always my photographer at the March for Life, so we have a blast. He's amazing. But to be there and to see the positive feeling, there's always a positive feeling, but it was different that time around because, of course, of Kellyanne Conway and Vice President Mike Pence, both of whom spoke at the march. And we have actually that very memorable clip back from 2017 March for Life of Kellyanne Conway speaking. I think you'll enjoy it. Let's take a listen.
Good afternoon, March for Life. I am Kellyanne Conway. I am a wife, a mother, a Catholic, counselor to the President of the United States of America. And yes, I am pro-life. It is such an honor to stand with the Vice President of the United States and with so many leaders, families, and students from places near and far to defend the unborn. Your courage, your conviction, your resolve, and your faith are impressive and consequential. This is a new day, a new dawn for life. Why are we here? What does it mean to stand together, to be part of this incredible movement, to face criticism, ridicule, laws and lawmakers that diminish and erode our most basic right and the bedrock of our society? It means to protect and to promote the most precious gift in the world, the gift of life. It means to stand up, stand tall, and stand together against the indifference and the indefensible, and to stand up, stand tall, and stand together on behalf of babies in the womb. It is no coincidence that the first right cited in the Declaration of Independence is the right to life. It is a right. It is not a privilege. It is not a choice. It is God-given. It is unique and it is beautiful. This dismissive notion of out of sight, out of mind is over. Science and medicine have joined religion and morality in causing many Americans to rethink just how fragile and how triumphant human life truly is. Look at a sonogram. Meet a thriving toddler who was born at 24 weeks and who, with proper medical intervention, goes on to have a long and healthy life. Speak to the many women who have faced challenges becoming and remaining pregnant and then welcomed a miracle. Talk to the couples who are now parents because adoption, not abortion, was the best choice. Every day is a fight for life, yet today is also a celebration of life. It is a time to lift your voices and lift your spirits. Steps away from here, in the White House, a president and a vice president sit at their desks and make decisions for a nation. As they sit there, they stand here with you. Their impassioned defenses of life as presidential candidates showed a nation that courage and commitment can overcome indifference and insults. And their decisive actions as president and vice president will further this conversation and this cause. This is a time of incredible promise for the pro-life, pro-adoption movement. Our message and our positive action must also reach those women who face unplanned pregnancies. They should know they are not alone. They are not judged. They too are protected and cared for and celebrated. So to the March for Life 2017, allow me to make it very clear. We hear you. We see you. We respect you, and we look forward to working with you. And yes, we walk, we march, we run, and we endeavor forward with you. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
Wow, I really enjoyed her talk, her presentation. I enjoyed meeting her behind the scenes afterwards, too. It was great. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk more about a tale of two marches, the March for Life and the so-called Women's March. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Catholic View for Women. I'm Teresa Tomeo, along with my co-hosts Elena Rodriguez and Janet Morana, talking about a tale of two marches. If you're just tuning in, we're referring to, of course, the annual March for Life, and you see gavel-to-gavel coverage right here on EWTN every single year. And what has also, unfortunately, become another tradition now in Washington, something called the Women's March. The first one happening in 2017, one day after the inauguration of President Donald Trump. Now, everyone has a right to free speech. But in this case, it got to the point where it was so ugly, and threats from people like Madonna against Donald Trump, awful when she said she was all about love, but she had dreams of blowing up the White House. And just some of the vile things that were said by some of these actresses and others who supposedly were speaking for all women. It was just very troubling as to why women thought this was appropriate. On the other hand, we played just a few minutes ago for you that beautiful clip of Kellyanne Conway, which I think is another example of how the media and the culture are getting this so wrong, and so many women are getting this so wrong. Why isn't Kellyanne Conway respected, considering what she did in terms of that election and how she came into the White House to get to the point where being the highest woman at any level in a presidency?
First of all, yeah, she broke the glass ceiling because she was the first woman to successfully run a presidential campaign. And the other side just ignores that total fact. But I mean, just for our EWTN viewers here, I personally have met her numerous times, so has Father Frank. She actually came to our Priest Life headquarters in New York years before this, when she had the polling company, and she did some polling for us about priests and different things that we've polled, to kind of know how your work's going. And I actually met her right after the inauguration that weekend. Her and Sean Spicer, we were at Mass together and coming out of Mass, and they couldn't have been friendlier. They were talking to everyone and chit-chatting, and she's a beautiful woman. She's a lovely mother, and you know, she should be appreciated for and so articulate. When you hear her on the news, you know,
Very
she's
eloquent.
very eloquent speaker.
And on point.
Right.
She does not, in any case, well, we saw it during this clip, but in any case, she doesn't recourse to insulting anyone or tearing anybody down. She just brings her
She
point
keeps it on the
across
positive.
respectfully and with logical thought, which takes an extra step. So she stays with a lot of dignity, really, and she's a good role model. One of the things that I noticed in her introduction to the March for Life rally was that she introduces herself as a wife,
A mom.
a
Catholic.
Catholic, even before she mentions her profession, which her
Right.
profession, of course, is very relevant.
Right.
But her you can see what her role and her priorities are, and I think that is absolutely exemplary.
But she's the top advisor to the President of the United States. Now, you would think that if women are all about breaking glass ceilings, that she would be all over the covers of the magazines and talking about finally breaking through.
Woman of the Year.
But why
always,
not?
yeah.
Because she's not pro-abortion.
Exactly.
And that's what it boils down to. And now, I doubt, because she's conservative in other areas, that, you know, if she were quote-unquote pro-choice, that she would be on the covers of the magazines, but because of her, you know, working for the president. But still, to me, it's absolutely ridiculous that you have this woman that's moved so high, first to successfully run a presidential campaign, and then moving into the White House at this top level, and they ignore her. But the good news is that she is having has had a profound impact on decisions made by the president, and I think many people, in terms of the way he moved forward very quickly after his election with some really strong pro-life efforts.
Yeah. Well, prayer is definitely back in the White House. I can tell you that from Father Pavone and I are on the Catholic Advisory Committee, and prayer is definitely back in the White House. The staff prays in the morning together.
I love the image after that first Ash Wednesday when they were in office and they all had their ashes on.
Yeah.
That was a sight to
Yeah, we have a
behold.
lot of Catholics that are in the White House working,
Yes.
and so we should be very proud of that the influence there, it's a very positive influence. So,
Do you think, Janet, now that the March for Life is starting to get more coverage, because back in 2017, the president actually embarrassed ABC News into covering it during an interview, said there's a bigger march that happens every year that you people don't even recognize.
Right.
And because the vice president spoke
yeah.
in 2017, brought a lot of attention to it. Do you think that the media will continue to cover it now?
I have a feeling unless President Trump calls him out again on it and sends Pence to it,
Or maybe goes himself, or
or goes
sends someone from
himself,
his
or is going to
staff?
call in, I don't think they will, because they want to ignore it.
Right.
But because he sent the vice president, because of that, and the reason why, by the way, he sent the vice president was he had to receive a dignitary, I forget who was coming, prime minister from overseas. So that was why Trump himself couldn't even consider going or call in. So I remember the conversation where we were told that Pence said to us that, oh yeah, the president looked at me and said, then you're going to go for me. You're going to represent me. So next year, we can hope and pray, but I sincerely doubt they'll want to cover it. They really don't want to cover it, and unless the vice president is there, I don't think they will. And I saw some of the coverage of the vice president speaking on CNN, and actually they took the feed from EWTN.
They did. It was so great.
It was
They had
so
our
great.
logo all over the
Yes,
camera. It was
I
great.
saw it. There it was, CNN, and now here's EWTN News. I was like, yes, thank you, Lord. Yes, Mother Angelica, you'd be happy. But you know, they don't want to show how many people. I mean, we had close to 500,000 people there, and they don't want to show that. They don't want to show the beauty, the smiles, all the young women. They don't want you to see. If you looked at the other
peaceful
march,
and
there was more
respectful
gray hair in that other march the day after the inauguration than there was at the
Did
pro-life
you also
march.
notice, because you and I travel so much for speaking in the airports, the coverage of that in terms of the magazines? I'm always looking at magazine covers and newspaper
Right.
front pages just to get an idea of what people are talking about in the secular press. And on the cover of Time magazine, the largest gathering in Washington ever. And I'm like, hello? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Can we
No.
say March for Life? Thank you
Yeah.
very much. But that's the way they painted it, and this was like just amazing. And we organizing once or twice compared to what we've been doing in the March for Life for over 40 years, coming up on 45 years, in the bitter cold, year after year after year after year, and gets bigger and bigger and bigger. I'm sorry, you talk about strength and stamina.
And it would be bigger. It would be bigger if all those women, and young women and men in their mother's womb would have been given a chance to be born. So that march, the number of people attending would have been bigger.
I'm sure, because they've been awarded.
We really need at least 3 shows to talk about this because there's so many different topics to discuss. It's just so important to understand how this Women's March does not represent all women. And if they're supposed to be about choice and every woman has a right to quote unquote choose, then why are they not allowing women with a different mindset, with a different idea of choice to march in this so-called Women's March? We only have about 1.5 minutes left, so I want you, Janet, to go over the homework because these are great resources that will help you understand the stark difference and this tale, really a tale of 2 marches.
Well, the first part of our homework is to read the beautiful document Mulieris Dignitatem, which is the apostolic letter by Pope John Paul II on dignity and the vocation of women. Now, you can find that document on EWTN.com. If you just scroll down to the document library, it's there. Of course, if you've already read it, because we've covered this before in our programs, we're encouraging you now to reread it a second time or a third time because you will get some new insights into that document. Of course, number 2, you can read my book, Recall Abortion, which is available at the EWTN Religious Catalog, which will also show you how damaging abortion is to women. Number 3 is Teresa's book, Extreme Makeover, also available at the EWTN Religious Catalog. And number 4 is go to our website, The Catholic View for Women, where we'll have all these resources mentioned, and you can sign up for our e-letter to be in touch with us. And then, of course, finally, like us on Facebook and spread the word about these programs.
Right, and also the reason we do what we do and talk about these things is because we want you to understand that there's a very different quote-unquote view that you're getting of reality from the world and the media, and it really isn't reality. So what we try to bring you is what is really happening behind the scenes and what they're not telling you about these different marches. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Teresa Tomeo along with Elena Rodriguez and Janet Morana. Until next time, remember, enjoy the Catholic view, stay close to the Lord and His Church, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.